This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Christopher Mitchell, 212th Trooper, Silas 1610, Carmen CJ, Rune Scribble, Legendary Ray Ray, Ash, and Devin Dixon, and brought to you by Christopher Mitchell, who requested this topic. If there is a video you want me to make, just head over to Patreon or become a channel member, and select the Pickled Producer tier, since among other benefits, you'll get to make a video request every month, be it the continuation of an existing series or a brand new story. Also, while I have you, please consider liking the video and subscribing, since it costs you nothing and really helps the channel grow. But with that out of the way, let's get on with the story. Our story begins, as many do, on the morning Ash Ketchum is meant to be in his Pokemon journey, though as he is in most timelines, he is presently fast asleep, having smashed his alarm clock and so missed the time he had chosen to get to Professor Oak's lab early so he could have his pick of starters. Instead, he awakens late and rushes down the main street of Pallet still in his pajamas, desperately hoping there's at least something left for him to choose. Following an unpleasant encounter with Gary Oak, who jeers that he got the best starter, our young hero is led into the lab by Professor Oak himself, who watches somewhat cruelly as the boy grabs for each starter's ball, only to learn that it is empty, and that the Pokemon inside was given to someone who arrived on time. Almost in tears now, Ash asks if there's really no Pokemon for him, and feeling a tug on his heartstrings, Oak admits there is one more. However, rather than activate a hatch within the machine holding the balls, he instead guides Ash out into the corral, having let the tempestuous Pikachu out to play in the hope that it might calm his spirits, since from what he remembers of his journey into the future as a boy, Ash and Pikachu were the best of friends, yet when he'd caught the rodent a few weeks back, he'd been aggressive and hostile towards humans. Knowing it might create a time paradox if he explained this, the sandy-haired man instead points his young friend in the direction of where he'd let Pikachu out to play, only to find the electric rodent half lodged down the gullet of a Cramorant. Saying that this isn't how it's supposed to go, the professor sternly orders Cramorant to spit Pikachu out right now, though being a fairly dim-witted Pokemon, the flying water type takes this instruction rather literally, spitting Pikachu out with the force of a gulp missile, so that he goes soaring into the sky, higher and higher and higher until he is just a twinkle on the horizon. Having fulfilled the professor's instructions, Cramorant then rather dopely looks to the man for praise, though at that moment he is too busy clutching his head as a terrible pain rips through it. Thankfully, this agony is only momentary, as a second later he rights himself, having remembered that it was actually a Cramorant who travelled with Ash when he and Celebi met him. Yes, that sounds right. Figuring this is why he came outside in the first place, Oak gestures to the Gulp Pokemon, introducing Ash to his starter, with this earning a squeal of glee as the boy rushes in to hug it, while it stares blankly over its shoulder at Oak, having already forgotten why he and the smaller human are here. Nonetheless, when Ash returns it to its ball, it does not put up a fuss, with the black-haired boy gratefully thanking the professor and running out the door as soon as he has his Pokédex and Pokéballs. Here he runs into his mother, who presents him with a backpack and change of clothes, and wanting to show off his new Pokemon, Ash brings Cramorant out, with Delia calling it very nice, even if she's not quite sure what it does, or if it does anything by the vacant look in its eyes. However, she is not left to wonder for long, as having spotted the Pokeball in its new trainer's hand, Cramorant immediately tries to swallow it, causing the boy to reach down its gullet and try to pull it out. In the scuffle that follows, Ash does manage to get the ball out, which is good, but out does not mean back, as when Cramorant releases the ball, it is with the same explosive force that it released Pikachu, meaning it is soon far out of view, having been sent sailing into the great beyond. A little put off by this, Delia questions how her son intends to carry his new partner around now. Though refusing to let this get him down, Ash shrugs that he guesses Cramorant will just walk beside him, with this being the last thing said on the matter, as he and the waterfowl then depart down Route 1. As part of this, Ash takes some time to investigate what moves his new starter knows, figuring it must be pretty powerful considering the strength with which it launches stuff. Unfortunately, this is perhaps an overestimation, as when he calls for it to show off its attacks, it delivers a peck so puny that it can't even bend a blade of grass, and a water gun that is more of a soft dribble barely worthy of an old fountain. As a result, when they come across a Rattata and Pidgey, Ash doesn't bother to try and battle them, figuring all he'll do is get Cramorant hurt, or worse, risk it swallowing the wild Pokemon. This does mean no incident with the Spearow flock, though considering his bird is a water type, Ash decides they might as well follow the stream to Viridian City, causing him to cross paths with Misty, who is fishing there. At the sight of the foreign water type, the orange-haired girl's eyes light up as she implores them both to cross over to her side of the bank so they can talk. At first, things are very pleasant as Misty fawns over Cramorant and begs Ash to tell her where he caught it so she can get one too, though when he admits it's his starter so he doesn't know, she does deflate a little, with this going from bad to worse when Cramorant spies the girl's bike. Due to the two humans being locked in conversation, no one is there to stop the flying water type from doing what it is about to, with the pair only noticing what's going on when the jostling of the bike causes the bell to ring. Looking back, Ash and Misty are horrified to see that Cramorant has started swallowing a bike whole, having even gotten as far as to get the back wheel down its throat. Suddenly liking the water bird a whole lot less, Misty furiously orders it to spit the bike out, and though Ash tries to warn her not to say it like that, it is already too late, with Cramorant sending the bike flying into the sky, never to return. For a moment, no one reacts. Then, as steam begins erupting from the girl's ears, Ash grabs his starter under one arm and begins to run, with Misty chasing the pair all the way to Viridian City as she screams they'll pay her back for her bike or she'll sick Officer Jenny on them. On the upside, this is an excellent motivator to keep running, with Ash making it to the city a few hours after sundown. Luckily, the vigorous exercise has cooled Misty's anger somewhat, with her snarling that she's not giving up on having him pay her back, but obviously he can't do that if he collapses, so they should head to the Pokemon Center where they can rest for the night. Due to not having battled today, Ash does not need to hand Cramorant over to Nurse Joy when they arrive, which is fortunate, since a little while later Team Rocket attack, having fallen behind schedule when a flying Pikachu punctured their balloon, a random Pokeball hit Jessie on the back of their head while they were repairing it, and then a bike landed on James, forcing the others to take him to the emergency room. However, none of that matters to Meowth now, as when he catches sight of Cramorant, he begins licking his lips and making his way towards the fowl while grinning that he spies a chicken dinner with his name on it, though this does not at all go like the Scratch Cat had planned. As when he draws near, Cramorant opens wide and sucks his head down its throat, causing Meowth to thrash and demand he be let go this instant. Being too dense to realize it probably shouldn't take orders from criminals who want to eat it, Cramorant obeys, spitting Meowth out with its signature force so that he pinballs between Ekans and coughing, knocking all three Pokemon out and forcing the crooks to retreat with sheepish expressions, having not even had time to recite their motto yet. And so, the Viridian Pokemon Center is saved, with Nurse Joy thanking Ash and Cramorant while Misty testily points out that he didn't do anything. It was all that menace of a water bird. All the same, the two travelers and their Pokemon are treated to a special breakfast by Nurse Joy the following morning. With this fueling them, Ash Cramorant, now permanent travelling companion until she can be repaid, Misty, set off into the Viridian Forest. Like in canon, this leads to the encounter with and capture of Caterpie, though despite seeing it, Ash does not catch Pidgeotto due to already having a bird by his side. Another thing that does not happen is Team Rocket attacking, as after the trauma of being half-eaten, Meowth had scratched Jessie and James's faces to ribbons at the very suggestion they should follow that twerpy kid and try to steal his flying water type. As a result, Caterpie does not evolve that day, though due to not being hampered in their progress, Ash and Misty do run into Samurai, with the boy challenging Ash to battle just as he did every other Pallet Town trainer. That is until he catches sight of Cramorant. At once, the armor-wearing boy breaks out in a cold sweat as he gasps that he's heard about that thing. A water bird yokai said to lead unwary samurai to their doom. No, he is not ready to die yet, so while it besmirches his honor, he must flee! As he goes, Ash and Misty can't help but share a look as they comment that he sure was a weird guy, since while the Gulp Pokemon is pretty rare around these parts, most people should at least be able to tell it's a Pokemon and not an evil spirit. In fact, Ash is rather disappointed, since he's still yet to have a proper battle, with this persisting all the way to Pewter City, at which point he almost gets into a fist fight with a bearded rock salesman when Cramorant swallows some of his merchandise and the man demands Ash pay or else. However, having learned from his first encounter with Misty, Ash chooses option C, run, as he grabs Cramorant and bails while yelling an apology and promising that he'll pay the guy back as soon as he's a famous Pokemon master. Luckily, this man has no follow-through, so he does not give chase, allowing Misty to slip away and reconvene with her companion at the Pokemon Center, just in time for him to learn about gyms and decide he's going to challenge them. To this end, he and Cramorant make their way to the Pewter Gym, where the gym leader Brock readily accepts their challenge, with his first Pokemon being none other than Geodude. Unfortunately for the rock Pokemon, Cramorant has already shown a fondness for eating craggy stones, and so when it flies into attack, the flying water type simply catches its head with its beak, causing its arms to flail helplessly while it tries desperately to hit what it can no longer see. Were that not bad enough, when Cramorant spits it back out, it cannot join Pikachu, its ball, and the bike in the sky, as there is a gym roof in the way, meaning instead it crashes into that, and then hits the ground unconscious. Next up for Brock is his Onix, and no matter how much it might like to, this is not something Cramorant can swallow. Consequently, when Brock commands the Rock Snake to bind the Gulp Pokemon with its tail, Ash desperately calls for the only move that might work, Water Gun. Like the first time Cramorant used it, this comes out as a pretty pathetic trickle, though all the same as soon as it touches Onix's skin, the rock ground type recoils as if it was bathed in acid. Seeing a way to win this, Ash tells Cramorant to keep this up, with the result being a rather ludicrous scene as the water bird slowly waddles towards its much larger foe, who cringes and recoils until it is backed into a corner, at which point the soft drizzle proves too much for it, taking it out and winning Ash's first badge with ease. Thanks to winning first try, Ash does not learn about Brock's home life, nor does Flint have his change of heart by working with the boy, meaning it's just Ash and Misty who depart for Mount Moon. Due to Team Rocket giving Ash and Cramorant a wide berth, there is no scheme for our heroes to foil in the mountain, meaning the trip through is an uneventful one, both for better and for worse. Subsequently, it is only a couple of days before they arrive in Cerulean City, where Misty temporarily leaves the party to conduct her own business. Not that Ash minds, as he only has eyes for the gym. Unfortunately, when he arrives, it turns out that the leaders have given up on battling and taken to simply handing out badges, with a seal coming up to offer the boy one when he enters to challenge. For a moment, Ash hesitates, preferring the idea of earning his badges, though evidently Cramorant has no such compunctions, as it promptly swallows the Cascade badge whole. This immediately changes Ash's focus, as breaking out of his funk, he instead implores his starter to spit it out. However, unlike everything else which has at least partially been lodged in Cramorant's throat, this has already made it down to its stomach, which is seemingly a point of no return. A little bashfully, Ash asks if he can have another one, to which the gym leaders sigh that they're afraid that was like totally the last one, and they don't want to have to deal with the old dude who makes them, so he'll have to find a way to get it back out of his bird. Letting out a deep sigh, Ash dejectedly concedes that he guesses he'll be on his way then, with this seemingly ending the matter. All the while, Misty watches from the pews, having prepared to challenge either Ash or her sisters, though now she just feels kinda bad for a companion. As a result, when she rejoins him that afternoon, it is with 2 ice creams and some pills for Cramorant, which should helpfully make retrieving Ash's Cascade badge a little easier. Unfortunately, as it turns out, the only thing Cramorant can't swallow is pills, forcing Ash to sacrifice his ice cream cone to hide the medicine in, though in return he does get his badge back, making the day a good one on the whole. Due to leaving Cerulean City a day and a bit earlier than canon, Ash does not run into the trainer who would normally point him to AJ's gym, meaning sadly he misses out on that experience, as does he miss meeting Joe and Giselle at Pokemon Tech due to Brock not being present to make them stop for a tea party. However, thanks to Ash still trying to lead the way in spite of his woeful orienteering skills, they do still find themselves at the booby-trapped bridge near the hidden village, with it being Cramorant rather than Brock who falls into the rushing stream, due to being too dense to think to hold on when the rope starts snapping. Naturally, Ash refuses to abandon his starter and so goes in search of it, with this leading him and Misty to Melanie's private retreat. Here Ash is joyfully reunited with his best buddy, while Melanie admits that she had feared it was yet another abandoned Pokemon, causing Ash to gasp that he would never ever do such a horrid thing. Unfortunately, it seems the Bulbasaur guarding this village does not believe him, viewing all trainers as the enemy, and without Team Rocket to serve as a contrast through which he can win its trust, Ash is eventually driven off with no grass starter. Following this is the incident with the abandoned Charmander on the rock, in which Ash and Misty find the poor creature starved and exhausted but unwilling to budge because its trainer Damien promised to return for it soon. Though, as the duo discover that night, Damien has no intention of ever going back for it, with even the potentially fatal storm going on outside not being enough to soften his cold, cruel heart. As a result, it falls to Ash and Misty to save Charmander, with them rushing through the storm to gather it up in their raincoats and get it back to Nurse Joy, all the while enduring Spearow pecks, since they lack an electric type to drive the birds off. Fortunately, they do manage to get Charmander to safety, and better still, after a long night of surgery, Joy confirms that the fire type will survive. Unfortunately, however, the trauma lizard still loves its toxic ex, meaning the following morning it returns to the rock bright and early, forcing Ash and Misty to accept that this is its decision, unwise and unhealthy though it may be. And, with no Team Rocket to prove that some humans can be duplicitous scumbags, thus causing Charmander to intervene and reassess its relationship with Damien, its time with Ash ends here. As for Squirtle, well, you're not going to believe it, but the absence of Team Rocket also means Ash doesn't get it, since while the Squirtle Squad are pranksters, it is the actions of Meowth that cause them to specifically target Ash and his friends rather than letting them pass after the initial pitfall trap. Additionally, it was Team Rocket bombing their hideout that made Ash and Squirtle team up, with this laying the foundation for their friendship. Without this, the squad instead just drop Ash and Misty in a hole the first time they meet them, and then return to playing pranks on their small town home. Consequently, Ash is left 0 for 3 on the starter front, though at least he still has Caterpie, who is yet to have a single battle. Could be worse though. He could be Bill, who remains trapped in his Kabuto costume for the next fortnight until his cook returns, since Ash never needs to seek out a phone, meaning he never visits the lighthouse. Instead, he and Misty make it to Vermilion City in record time, where Ash immediately seeks out Lieutenant Surge to challenge him. As a water expert, Misty points out that maybe he should use something other than his Cramorant, who is quad weak to electric moves here, though when the Lieutenant catches sight of the boy and his starter and dubs them both babies, Ash fiercely declares that he and Cramorant will show show him, all the while the Gulp Pokemon just stares blankly, not realizing it's been insulted. Nonetheless, it does know what a call to battle means, with it waddling onto the field at Ash's command while Surge chooses Raichu. Having travelled as part of his military service, Surge is more familiar with foreign Pokemon than most Cantonians, which includes knowing what a Cramorant is, and more importantly, what can hurt it, with his opening attack being a thunderbolt that sees a jolt of electricity arc into the air and come down right towards the water flying type. Urgently, Ash cries for his buddy to dodge, though mishearing this as Gorge, the bird attempts to devour the thunderbolt, opening wide and allowing the current to shoot right down its gullet. Unsurprisingly, this makes the already devastating attack more so, as a plume of black smoke billows out of Cramorant's beak while its stomach begins gurgling, having evidently not agreed with its most recent meal. In a mock sympathetic voice, Surge comments that it sounds like the baby needs to burp. Luckily, he and Raichu can help with that, before calling for a Mega Punch that the electric rodent drives painfully into the Gulp Pokemon's gut. Unfortunately for Surge, he is more correct than he might have thought, as the combo of being electrocuted and then hit both in the stomach causes Cramorant to forcibly spit up something Ash and Misty had quite forgotten it had eaten, the rocks from Pewter City. Not only that, but due to having been half dissolved and congealed over several weeks, this has turned them from stony souvenirs into an impromptu rock wrecker, which now begins manifesting in Cramorant's mouth. Spotting this and knowing how dangerous it can be, Surge cries for his partner to retreat on the double, though it is already too late, as having closed in for that punch, Raichu is now hit point blank in the face and blasted back into the wall where it lies with spirals for eyes and a massive stone imprint on its face. In contrast, Cramorant feels quite relieved, having finally gotten that up, and so looks to Ash as if questioning whether they can get something to eat now, though at that moment the boy is not looking at it. Instead, he, Misty and Surge are all sharing matching bewildered expressions, as they wordlessly question both what just happened and how it happened. Nonetheless, when Surge remembers to give the kid a badge since he guesses he technically won, Ash gratefully accepts, pinning it to his vest and then hugging Cramorant since he knew his starter had what it took to win. With this out of the way, it is time for the duo to depart Vermilion, and since no Team Rocket means no bogus cruise tickets, our heroes leave by land, heading next towards Saffron City. To do this, they must double back the way they came, with Misty questioning how it's possible they didn't pass through there on their way here then. Though, shrugging that he doesn't know, Ash then takes off at a run, forcing Misty to give chase as she yells that he better not be trying to lose her again, and Cramorant waddles behind them both with a loud, happy honk. And that's where we'll leave things. How will the presence of Cramorant continue to affect Ash's Kanto journey? Who else will join our young hero's roster of companions? And will Caterpie ever get to battle and evolve? Find out as the journey continues.